All right, guys, this is another special episode. This is a very, very special episode because we have a very, very special guest with us this week. Probably the most special guest that we've had so far on this show, and we'll have for a while. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a 9-time All-Star, a 2-time Olympian, has over 500 goals in the NHL, has played over 1,000 games, was a part of the 91 Canada Cup turned American team, and is a Hockey Hall of Famer, and is one of the reasons that Crusty old guy loves the Chicago Blackhawks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thanks. I'm feeling a little bit popular. Feeling pretty good about myself right now. Thank you. That's great. Hi guys, how are you? How you been? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's great.
I love
everything. Fantastic on our end. And how are you?
Well, considering I've been retired for 15 years, it seems like I'm more busy now than I ever have been. But, I'm traveling the world, literally traveling the world and having a great time and watching my kids grow into fine young adults and, enjoying the fruits of an amazing marriage to really the Hall of Famer, which is my wife, Tracy. And, so we're building companies, making money, making people happy, doing lots of things for charity and getting ready for the Hall of Fame induction in November, which I got to say I'm pretty excited about, but pretty nervous all at the same time.
Yeah,
I wanted to tell you, I listened to a couple of your last episodes of your podcast, the Snipes and Stripes.
Yeah.
Yep. I was really taken by, you seem like you are in a fantastic place. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is. I'm probably the best space I've ever been in, kind of in my life, even, through all the great times in hockey and, being an NHL superstar and so on and so forth. That can be very detrimental as well as it can be, profitable or prosperous, right? Everybody says, "Oh, being an NHL, being a professional athlete, it's got to be so much fun. It's got to be this, it's got to be that." There comes a lot of trials and tribulations with that also, and you can really get lost in the shuffle, and you can get lost in the accolades. You can get lost in the ego and the superstardom, and there was a lot of times where I did get caught in that, and you kind of lose focus. It's very easy to lose focus of what's really important in life, what's really important in relationships, what's really important about being a person, right? Because that kind of attention is very addictive and can be very, very dangerous if not, handled properly. And I can honestly tell you, there were times when I did handle it properly and a lot of times where I didn't. But now at 54 and kind of rearranging my mentality, my, the things that are important to me, priorities and family has been, it's been really good, kind of really good spiritual upheaval for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, I really took that away from those couple of last episodes. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, what you find when you're in the limelight, you lose track of the people that are really important, right? So you take for granted your family. Oh, they'll always be there. Look at the life I'm giving them. Look at this, look at that, and it's if you don't pay attention to that and feed the love and feed the the intimacy and feed the relationship and the loyalty. It's gonna be a tough road, and I'm very, very fortunate that I'm as a very young guy at 54. I put a lot of good mojo in the atmosphere, in the air, right? And good things have been happening to me ever since. So, there's something to be said about that, right? It's all about choices, right? I don't know what you guys think. Everybody has the opportunity to have different choices in life. Choices that you make, whether they're small ones, big ones, medium ones, life-changing ones. Choices affect everything. So you got to be very, very careful with your choices and make sure that you're making the right ones. And so far, the last little while, I've been making a lot of good ones, and it's paying off.
Fantastic. Hockey Princess, you want to get us started, or?
Yeah. Okay, so some of our listeners don't know the whole Hockey Hall of Famer call, the whole story of how you got the call. Would you indulge us in retelling?
Yeah, well, obviously it's 2024, and I was eligible in 2012. So that's 12 years of kind of waiting. And, after my dad passed in 2001, I think I got more animosity for not being there, because I heard from so many people, when are you going to the Hall of Fame? How come they're not letting you in? What's going on? These people are going in. You should go in before them. It was a barrage of throughout the year. And so finally I was just like, I'm not interested anymore. I kind of lost my luster for it. I stopped following it. And so this year, it was at end of June. I had just gotten back off a trip. I had to go into spin class and get a good spin, kind of spin away my, my vacation calories. And I wasn't even thinking about anything. Literally came out of spin soaking wet and was pulling into Starbucks, and I looked on my phone, and it was a 416 missed call. And I'm like, 416, that's Toronto. Why is Toronto calling me? And I'm like, so I call the number back, and I get an answering machine that says, "Hi, welcome to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Press 3 for tickets, press 4 for tours, press all." So I was actually calling the hotline for the Hall of Fame. So I hang up. I'm like, wow, it's that time of year. It is end of June. That I started getting nervous, right? My palms started sweating. I started getting nervous, and I ordered my coffee. And as I'm pulling around, the phone rings again, and there's the 416 number again. I get all kind of, now I'm getting all choked up. I'm getting nervous again because I'm answering the phone call now, and I answer it, and they're like, "Hello." It's like, "Hey, it's Jeremy. It's Mike Gartner and Laney McDonald." And I'm like, "No, it's not. No, it's not." And literally, I can feel all my emotions running up, and I couldn't speak, and I was swearing. I'm like, "No, it's not." And I'm literally pulling up to the barista with my coffee, and he's holding it out, and I'm crying, and I can't talk, and I'm trying to navigate a conversation with the Hall of Fame, and this guy's holding the coffee. He's like, "Do you want your coffee?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want my coffee." He goes, "You got to pay for it." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll pay for it." And it was just it was pretty much a cluster F of emotions, and I was really happy with the way that it hit me, because I wasn't expecting that kind of reaction when the call actually came, because, like I told you, I'd kind of lost my attention to it, lost my interest to it, and I didn't think it would hit me, but it did. It hit me hard, and I was glad that it did, because it is really one of the most special things, if not the most special thing that can be bestowed on you as an athlete. And, to say I'm a Hall of Famer means something to me. And I remember hanging up the phone, pulling away from the Starbucks. I stopped the car, and I yelled at the top of my lungs. I went, screamed, "Effing yes, it's about time," And then I called my wife, and she started crying. I called my son, and she started crying. I called my daughter, and she goes, "Yeah, I knew you were going to make it anyway." So, yeah. So
that's classic.
Yeah. It was good. It was a very, really cool time in my life.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was amazing that you had to wait that long, and who knows why, whatever else, but I mean, nobody ever questioned whether your numbers or your gift back to the game was Hall of Fame worthy. I mean, anybody that I ever talked to, anybody who ever talked about you, always deemed you NHL worthy, so Hall of Fame worthy. So that was really cool. I wanted to go way back if possible.
Mm-hmm.
With the Hawks and their rebuild, me and Hockey Princess have started watching like the World Juniors a little bit more and everything. And when I first started following hockey, there was no way to really follow it. like when you played in the World Juniors. So when I went and I actually did research for this interview, which is the first time I've ever researched on this program. But I mean, you had a phenomenal 2-year run at the World Juniors.
Yeah, I did.
You were still now the number 2 USA scorer, only beaten out because somebody went 3 years.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think I might be third now because I think Zegras went by me a couple years.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It did take 25, 26 years for somebody to pass me. Right.
I think that was 2010. I was just curious what that experience was like, and if you remember anything about it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was amazing because that's where, I mean, I'm a young American kid, right, coming out of Boston, and I was at the time probably 146 pounds. I was small, but I could fly, and I was talented, and I was gritty. But that's where your talents are put on the world stage, right? You're playing with the best Americans against the best Canadians against the best Russians. And that's where the scouts are. They want to see you compete and how you play against the best competition. And I thrived at it. Going to Russia as a 17-year-old, young 17-year-old, and learning to play that level coming out of high school was awesome for me, and it was a big learning curve. Then I went to Alaska the next year, and I felt like obviously I was a veteran, right? I was like the old guy in the team, and I was just so much more ready and poised and better, and I just ripped that tournament apart in terms of goals. But that just put me on the world stage, right? That put me in. It's probably that first world junior championship put me in the first round of the draft to be able to play that way. And obviously what I did in high school, but back then the NHL didn't draft high school hockey players, especially USA high school hockey players.
Right.
So not very common. So the fact that I did compete so well on the world stage and make, I think I made second team All-Star as a first year junior player was important. So it was great. It was one of the more fun times of my career.
Yeah, because as I said, not having like kind of access, I shouldn't say shocked, but I mean, you tore it up for a year. I mean, you guys only placed 5th, but you did some serious damage.
It's kind of crazy the things, the records, or at least the things that I've done that have been able to withstand the test of time, right? Like to be able to be the highest scoring American for 25 years, maybe even longer, was pretty special. I'm still the last person to score 50 goals for the Hawks, right? I mean, that's 21 years ago. Or is it 31 years ago? 31 years ago.
We need somebody who's good at math.
Yeah, 32 years ago was the last time somebody scored 50 goals for the Hawks, and that was me. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy in a league where the talent is so good, but still, that shows you how hard it is to do.
Yeah.
Hockey Princess, you got anything you want to?
Yeah. Speaking of when you were younger, were there guys that you watched growing up that you either tried to necessarily like model your game after, or just really looked up to, and how they played and how they carried themselves as NHL players? Yeah,
well, growing up in Boston, you had to be a Bruins fan, right? If you weren't a Bruins fan, then you were going to get run out of Massachusetts really quick. So, being a Boston fan, watching Rick Middleton was always my favorite. And then, Gretz came along later. He became, one of those guys I looked at. There's a bunch of guys that, as Boston goes, I was a big Bobby Orr fan, and Gordie Howe, and, all the usuals through the 70s. But Rick Middleton was my guy. They called him Nifty. You know, he always had his hair flowing in the wind, and this jersey was flapping, and he always made nice, really pretty cool plays. He was talented but gritty. So I kind of tried to resemble Rick Middleton.
Very cool. And I guess a segue question would be, for our younger viewers who really never had an opportunity to watch you play, if you were to pick one or two players from today's game that kind of exemplified the way you played, would you be able to do that? Or
No.
Okay.
I mean, I would take the kind of the speed and power of McKinnon with maybe a playmaking ability of a Sidney Crosby, and say maybe a goal scoring ability like, you know, maybe not like Ovechkin, but, you know, of that nature, right? But when you talk about playmaking, scoring goals, being as physical, hitting as much as I did, and fighting, I did like the whole I encapsulated all of that. I don't see any players today that encapsulate all of that. We have players that do 1, 2, 3, or 2 of 3, or 2 of 4, but not all 4 in a major part of your game and existence. And that was me. I mean, I hit hard every game. Like I went out there to hurt people and to literally because I was smaller, that was my intimidation factor, was either I was going to score a great goal and hurt you, or I was going to knock you on your ass and hurt you. So, yeah, but I don't, it's a lot different game nowadays. You know, they don't hit anymore. There's not much fighting anymore. You know, back in the early 90s, without the, you know, you don't have the instigator rule and you hit a lot, you're going to have to stick up for yourself, and you're going to have to fight, and you're going to have to be accountable for the way you play. And I was fully aware of that and was ready at the drop of that to do that. So, and I scored a lot of goals and scored a lot of points and had a lot of penalty minutes, right? Like one of my true claim to fame is, you know, I think I'm the only one in NHL history to lead their team in goals, assists, points, and penalty minutes in back-to-back seasons. You know, who else does that? Nobody.
No, in today's game, I think you're basically right on. Maybe somebody does 1, maybe somebody does 2, but nobody has that package anymore. And, you know, for me, people often ask, how did you become such a hockey nut? And as I was out thinking about doing this interview and figuring this would never happen, walking the dog, I figured it out that you were to blame. I had never
I'll take that blame.
You were a superstar that went out, and me and Hockey Princess talk about this a lot on this show, like somebody who brings their team into the fight.
Yeah.
And you would bring your team into the fight, not just your team. You brought the whole building into the fight. It was the two things that I can completely remember about you, neither is a goal. One was you were like circling by the penalty box. Somebody had just dumped the puck in. You did like a little circle. And at that point in time, I could tell you were getting ready to line somebody up from an outlet pass.
Yep.
Whoever I was at the game with, I kept on yelling, he's coming. He's coming. And bam, and that place erupted.
Yep. Well, that was a good thing, but because when I first got in the league, I was not a hitter. I was not physical at all. I was an 18-year-old. I was 158 pounds, coming into Chicago, where Mike Keenan was the coach, who wanted the toughest, roughest, most physical team in the league, and he literally grabbed me by the throat and almost choked me and threatened my whole NHL career if I didn't hit somebody. So I started literally launching myself like a human torpedo into people, using my speed as my velocity as my strength and my weight, because didn't weigh anything, so I needed the velocity to hit hard. And I found I hit people really hard, and I liked how it felt. I liked the crowd noise. I love how they reacted, and it gave me another leg up, or at least a weapon to use for intimidation, right? Always, because I never wanted a defenseman to be comfortable when I was on the ice, right? So, and I think a lot of times I succeeded in that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, as you said, it's the one thing that is missing from the game, especially, as you point out, the instigator, the taking away of the red line, where it's a lot more ping pong instead of having to go from zone to zone. But
it's a great game. The players are so talented now. They're fast, they're talented, they're extremely in great shape. But it's still an entertainment aspect, right? We still have to understand that we're entertainers. We get paid a lot of money, there's no question, and there's a responsibility with that. And that responsibility comes, having a personality, playing hard for your team, earning the money that you're making, entertaining the people that are coming into an arena to spend a lot of money to sit their ass in an arena to watch us perform. And I really believe that it is our responsibility to give them something that they can appreciate and that they can like and they can really get behind. And that even means off the ice, to have a personality, to give good interviews, to say hi to people on the street, to have a conversation and not think that you're above anybody else because we play hockey better than you do. I always say, if it wasn't for the fan, we would just be a regular men's league, down the street in the arena with a designated beer guy, literally. Right. So don't lose that. Don't lose the importance of why professional sports is professional sports. And it's not because of the owners and it's not because of the players. It's because of the fans. If no fans came to the games, there would be no professional sports.
Hear, hear. That is so true. And having been somebody that you took a minute or two to say hey to a couple times, you always made me feel very good.
Well, it's important.
I ran into you
called gratitude.
In the 90s.
It's called gratitude. It's called gratitude, and I think that's important. A perfect example is how the three of us got connected, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? I mean, Princess Hockey Princess. You can explain how we got together, which it's just a shot in the dark. But again, if you don't try, you never know.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell your listeners the story about how this all came about?
Because I love this story. So for those who don't know what a cameo is, it is a little message. Certain professional athletes, actors will do them, and it's a little personalized message. My stepmom got Crusty Old Guy one for his 60th birthday from his favorite hockey player of all time, of course. And then we got the video, and Jared wanted to come on, and we said absolutely yes.
Yeah, during my video of saying, obviously you said, to me that you guys had a podcast. So I'm like, you guys got to bring me on, in the video. And you guys sent me a private message saying, hey, if you ever want to come on. And I'm like, absolutely. See, so it's like that's the kind of mentality that you have to have. You have to pay attention. And sometimes some of the greatest interviews or some of the greatest people that you meet are people that you meet by chance, right? And you guys are no exception.
Yeah, very cool. It was when you came out and said it, as I was watching it for the first time, my jaw about dropped. So.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Chicago means a lot to me and all my fans. They treated me so well, and so it's a pleasure to be able to come on with you guys.
Do you want to go or do you want me to go again, Hockey Princess?
I can go.
Okay.
You've played on quite a few international platforms throughout your career, but when did you feel like Team USA was able to compete with Team Canada
Yeah.
and on a serious level?
Well, 1980 and the the Olympic gold. That was the event that made me want to be an international player, be an NHL player, be an Olympian. And I think it did for a lot of the guys in my generation, whether it was Chris Chelios, Brian Leach, John LeClaire, Mike Modano, Tony Amonte. It was big for us. We always used to struggle internationally because we just were a step behind. We were always behind in training and obviously the love of the game. It's a Canadian sport. But in 1996, the World Cup, which they had after the Canada Cup. So I was involved in 91 Canada Cup, which is a lot of fun. I was in the last Canada Cup, and those are the premier international tournaments for pros. So when they stopped the Canada Cup and made it the World Cup, and US won it in 96. Unfortunately, I wasn't on that team because I was right in the middle of a contract dispute, and I was in the middle of making some really good money. The first time that I was really had the opportunity to make life-changing money. I was cautious of going to play in the World Cup in August. And if I get hurt in the World Cup and something happens to me, and now I've lost my opportunity to go play in the NHL for life-changing money, it wasn't worth it to me. So I watched the World Cup from the booth. I did some television work for it and watched the U.S. beat Canada in a 3-game series in the World Cup, which was probably the biggest win for U.S. since 1980. That's when we became a world power. And then again, put on display in 2002 at the Olympics in Salt Lake City when U.S. was up against Canada in the gold medal game. Arguably the biggest platform in pro sports, the Olympic gold medal game. And we were there. We're on the big stage. And, our generation made USA Hockey a world power, a superpower. And we're only getting better because my generation is now spurred on the Austin Matthews, the Canes, the Zegrises, all the guys that are now playing that are just coming up in the league, and these young kids that are making USA Hockey even better. So, when I came in the league, there was 14% of the league was American. Now it's 32%. So US is now a superpower because of 80, because of 96, because of 2002. And I see future Olympics medals coming in the future for US also.
Yeah, because I just always believed that next huge step was by your group. The core of you guys really put USA on the map again. And
yeah, there's no question. Yeah. Well, if you think about it, 80 was a fluke. If you think about it, it was arguably the biggest upset in sports history. It's so big. It's kind of like, what town do you guys live in?
Wheaton. So we're western suburbs.
It's kind of like the Wheaton High School hockey team going in and beating, the Edmonton Oilers, right?
Right.
It's kind of how big the upset was back in 1980. But in 96 and 2002, we actually were one of the favorites, right? We were a power. So yeah, it's very true in terms of that nature.
And then I guess I'd like to go back again a little bit to the 92 season, which was, for a couple reasons, it was some of the most incredible hockey I've ever watched live in my life. And as I was trying to explain to Hockey Princess, the whole fact of in 92 for your playoff run, there was one night of watching you guys, and the next night we watched Michael Jordan, and then we watched you and watched Michael Jordan. And there was also a 12-game winning streak in the playoffs. What was that all like?
It was awesome. It was nuts. And you're right. That was a good time to be a Chicago sports fan, right? It was, the Bulls were just flying high. We were just rolling along. And that playoff year, I remember we were down 2-1 against St. Louis. and we won the game in overtime to make it 2-2, and then we just rattled off 11 straight wins, and we just couldn't be beat. And going in against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who at the time had a 7-game win streak going, defending Stanley Cup champions, and arguably two of the best players in the history of the game, Jaromir Jagr and Lemieux. They had 9 Hall of Famers on that Pittsburgh team. But when we go in game 1 and we go up 4-1 in game 1, we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And then Mario and Jagr take over, come back and beat us 5-4 in that game. I think that was a huge ego momentum bust for us, and we just couldn't regain our confidence after that. And we only lost by, I think, 1 goal each game, but that was a tough one. That was a tough one to lose. That was, 92 was my only Stanley Cup appearance, which is mind-boggling because I was on some unbelievable teams. I won the President's Cup trophy, best team in the league, 4 times. 2 of the times I won it, we were ousted in the first round, which is not a good sign to have, not a good thing. But it shows you how hard it is to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because I remember I first got season tickets in the 91 year. And I thought I was the coolest person around because I'm like, they just took the President's Cup.
Yeah.
I just got on board, and we don't need to state what had happened, but
yeah,
it was over.
That was a terrible loss. We lost to Minnesota in 6 games. And I remember losing game 6 in Minnesota at the Met Center, the embarrassment of losing in that series, and then coming off the ice, and this little 9-year-old, it looked like he was 9 years old, was laughing and literally threw a half-eaten hot dog, and it hit me in the face as I was coming off the ice. And it's like one of those things. It's like add insult to injury, right? Here we lose to Minnesota in the first round with the best team in the league, and then I get hit in the face with a half-eaten hot dog. I'm like, I need to get the hell out of Minnesota. Just get me out.
My God. I have never heard that. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I try not to tell that story too often. It's so embarrassing.
Well, also, I mean, way back then, there was a lot more. You didn't have shields, guards of, when you guys were going in and out to the locker room and everything. So I did have another question about the in 92. Yeah. I think like the last 3, you lost by 1 goal. The last game was 1-0. And
no, game 3 was 1-0. The last game was like 6-5.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
My bad. Now Pittsburgh celebrated with the cup on the stadium ice. Did you guys come back out?
No way.
After that?
No way. I think we were probably 5 beers short by the time the Stanley Cup got out to the ice.
It's one of the urban legends that I had heard of, because for me, I'm a big Ron Francis fan.
Yep.
So I watched him hoist the cup.
Yeah.
And then right when he was done, I kind of went bonkers. And I don't know if you remember you're not up in the second balcony a lot, but there were wooden seats.
Yeah.
And I proceeded to make splinters out of all of them and just let out all my anger. But I had heard from people that said the team came back out, and I was like, well, I left right after I did that to my chair.
No.
So
we're getting as far away from that cup as possible. Yeah.
That's what I had figured, but I needed to ask. So
no.
Been a question I've been wanting to ask since like 93. So we finally got that taken care of.
Nope, that thing eluded me for way too many years. Yeah.
Hockey Princess, you want to go with the question?
Were there any cities or games that were on the calendar that you were excited for, either because you just liked being in that city or playing in that city, or
for sure, for sure.
Matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Boston was one of those teams, and I was a big Original Six guy, so playing for Chicago was really cool for me because it's an Original Six team.
Mm-hmm.
but it was the buildings that had so much character and the aura. Going into Maple Leaf Garden was huge for me. Going into Montreal Forum was unbelievable. Going to Madison Square Garden, it was like, these were special places where history, the hockey history was born, was created. So to feel that atmosphere, I love playing in Toronto. I scored more points in Toronto than any other building in the National Hockey League because I loved being their spoilers. I loved having all those people boo me and scoring goals and making their team lose. I love that. So, and still looking in the rafters and seeing the Sittlers, and the Borja Salmings and, the all the different shirts that are in the rafters. So, yeah, those were the places. And obviously back in the day, playing in LA was awesome because we got out of the cold, get to the beach, get to sit by the pool, relax the bones and the body a little bit. A lot of guys we'd spend a few days out there. So it was a nice change to the grind of the National Hockey League.
And well, staying on that with different cities, us me, my generation, we kind of look at you as you're our guy. And listening to you do like a couple other interviews, you had an incredible special relationship with Philadelphia.
I did.
And I would just like you to tell the listeners, what that was like. It's a lot of what you were talking about. It seemed like you just constantly giving back, and then getting twice as much back from the fan base. But
I feel that that is one of the best fan loving athletes out there, right? Fan appreciation. Yes. So I gave everything to them. And that was the way I played. That was off the ice. That was my time. A lot of times my personal time. My relationship with the Chicago Blackhawk fans are so unique because that's where I started. I mean, that was my home, 18 years old. I mean, that's a team that brought me into the professional world, and pretty much my greatest memories in Chicago. And like I said, only 3 players have ever scored 50 goals for the Blackhawks. Only 3. 100-point scorers are rare. My relationship with the fans, and I shared that with the fans. When I went to Philly, now I'm going into a sports nut town with passionate people that are actually aggressive, and they're very, very, their expectations of their athletes are very high. They root hard, they scream hard, they yell at other teams' fans. They are passionate. Philadelphia Flyer fans cheer and have expectations the way I played the game and had expectations of the game. And I gave them that. I gave them the fight. I gave them the energy. I was engaged every game. I didn't take nights off. I didn't come in and really, if I was, unless I was hurt or sick, but I still gave them, I want to be that guy that got on the ice and be like you, right, Crusty? Be like you. Oh, he's on the ice. Watch 27, watch 97, watch 97, right? I wanted people in the stadium to know when I was on the ice, and they tap the guy next to him. Hey, he's on the ice. That's what I wanted. And Philadelphia Flyer fans were like that. So I played the game the way the Flyers fans cheered, and we just created a bond, and I gave them the exact player that I told them I was going to give them. And I think the respect is very, very important. And we had that. We still have that together. Fans all over Philly still grab me from all over the place, and I'm still very popular there. And that means the world to me.
Yeah, I mean, as we're talking right now, I'm almost feel sad for Hockey Princess and people that never had the chance to watch you live.
I missed him by 1 year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It was that wild. It was that riveting. As I said, it's just the way you brought the whole building into things was just, it was very unbelievable. And
Well,
it was your
I didn't
gift.
I didn't waste much time, right? I always wanted to have some sort of effect every time I stepped on the ice, right? Whether it was a big hit, scoring a goal, nice pass, doing something defensively. I didn't want to waste an opportunity. And there's some people today that just are lazy. They're lazy. They don't think about it. They don't care. They're making a lot of money. It doesn't mean as much to them, but it meant a lot to me. And I think, people say, how do you want to be remembered? I want to be remembered as a warrior. I want to be remembered as a guy who left everything on the ice, that did everything he could to win, supported his teammates. Now, granted, I had a big mouth. I definitely, spouted my mouth off. I definitely was very honest with a lot of things I said. To a lot of people, I looked like I was egocentric, that I was an asshole. But you know what? I was a small kid. I was small. I needed to have an attitude. I needed to have that. In order to be very successful, you have to have that type of attitude. And that's what the media portrayed me as. So, when I go into another city, they don't know me, but to know me by how they watch me play and by what the media says. They don't know who I am personally. So, I kind of use that as my, to my benefit, but also, it kind of hurt a lot to say, and I think that's why I didn't get, invited into the Hall of Fame for the longest time, is because I was one of those controversial people. I was one of those people that would say things that really, Gary Bettman would be like, why did he say that? So, but,
I didn't want to bring up that portion of it, but I mean, again, as we talk about the Hockey Hall of Fame, that's the first thing that comes to mind because of saying something. They're gonna try to hold you out when.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, no one's gonna say that I was the prince of the National Hockey League, like the goody boy, right? The guy who's, who did it by the book. I was not that guy. I was always the one that was pushing the limits, pushing people's buttons, suspensions for my mouth, suspensions for my actions. I gave people a lot of reason. And, I wasn't the easiest person to coach all the time because I had expectations also. If I'm going to play this way and I'm going to play this hard, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be expected to be treated a certain way too. So as a coach, it was pretty hard to coach me sometimes. You watch YouTube, and by the way, Hockey Princess, that's the best way to watch me nowadays is through YouTube. I don't think there is a video on YouTube where I am not squawking at somebody, yelling at somebody, whether it's a referee, a player, a fan, or a coach or whatever. I am this all the time. And sometimes people get the wrong idea of what this can, relate to.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, at times people take things said and it takes on a world of its own, and that's a discussion for a way different show or different.
Well, times have changed too.
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to play in this game now for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'd get suspended every game because of the way I hit. But I'd also get suspended for my mouth and the things that I would say, and for my engagement verbally was very aggressive. I needed that to gain more confidence, to gain more of an edge. I needed that, so I used it to my benefit.
Yeah, and I'll throw this one out there too. I mean, you mentioned the 100 points, the 50 goals. Now, what do you think you are able to put down if you don't ever have to worry about going through the middle of the ice and getting laid out? I mean, in today's game, there is none of the. I mean, I see you at least putting up 150 points if you're not worried about that somebody taking your head off the area.
Well, it's definitely a different game. I would have loved not to be able to get hooked and held and slashed and all that fun stuff. But I will say, I was able to do a lot of things because I was faster and more agile than a lot of the players back then, right? They had to hook and hold because they didn't move as well. In the National Hockey League now, they have goaltenders are bigger, they're more athletic, they are more talented, players are faster. So you have to think quicker and be able to react quicker and outsmart people now better than you had to back then, because back then you just go fast and go around the outside and make a move and score. Now you have to be able to make a move at the right time, get in the right spot, hit the perfect shot in order to beat the goaltender. There's both of them, both scenarios have it. It's hard to score goals. I think it's probably easier to score goals now, but there are some people that say no, when the goaltenders didn't have butterflies, when they were too fat and out of shape to go down on the ice, it was easy to score goals. When the defenseman couldn't skate backwards, and if Connor McDavid played in the 80s, he'd have 400 points. He'd have 400 points. Nobody would be able to touch him, right? So
right.
You put today's rules back in the 80s, and the players in the 80s with a Connor McDavid just destroys the league. Nobody ever touch him. You probably have 200 goals and 200 and some assists. Be sick.
Yeah, he's a pleasure to watch. Hockey Princess, you got more questions, correct?
I think you got one more, and then I've got a couple.
Okay, you can go ahead.
What are your thoughts on the move from Arizona to Utah, and do you think that hockey should return back to the desert?
Well, let's just say it bothered me. It made me sad. When I got traded from Chicago to Phoenix in '96, it was one of the worst things that happened to me professionally. But it also was a great thing because I moved to a place that I loved. My family grew to love Scottsdale. My kids were raised there. We lived there for 25 years. Even though I went other places, I had a home in Arizona for 25 years. So it became a very important part of my life. It was just too bad that after the 2000 season and the ownerships changed, and now greed came into play. People got a hold of the team, not for the love of the team, but to build arenas and build entertainment complexes and, do it financially for financial reasons rather than the love of the game. And I think that hurt the Coyotes tremendously. The building was put in the totally wrong place in the city, way out west in Glendale, where there are no hockey fans. The hockey fans aren't going to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to a game a couple times a week. It's just not going to happen. The ownership ruined the Arizona Coyotes or the Phoenix Coyotes. Ownership ruined them. They didn't want to spend money. They wanted to chintz their way through seasons. The NHL had to take care of them because of their financial woes. You just can't do that, right? And there are a lot of great hockey fans in Arizona. A lot of snowbirds come down from Minnesota, from Canada, from Seattle, wherever they come from, Chicago. And there's no team there now because of terrible ownership. And I think Utah's going to be a great place for an NHL team. They have a great owner. I think they have an up-and-coming team. They're going to feel like a professional sports team now, and I think they'll play like it because here they were treated and looked like a minor league team. And that really makes me sad.
You said that, the stadium was kind of put in the wrong area. I don't have I've never been to Arizona. I don't have an exact lay of the land.
You're missing out. You're missing out.
I know it's on my list. But is there a place in Arizona that you would have thought, or you thought that, it might do a bit better?
Yeah, right there in Scottsdale. There's, near, if you can put it near Chandler, put it near Tempe, put it near Mesa. That's where all the hockey fans are. That's the oldest part of the Arizona was Scottsdale, Mesa, Chandler. That's where all the snowbirds have been coming for years and years and years. So that's where all the hockey fans are. That's where all the money is. Most of the money is on that east side of Phoenix, and it just seemed to never get the right support, maybe from the town or from enough people.
Mhm.
And they just never were able to secure a good place to put up a building that was going to really allow that team to prosper.
Yeah, and I had gone out to the arena, and yeah, it didn't seem like they cared putting too much money into the arena either. It just a huge shame.
Yeah, and I don't, to tell you the truth, I don't see it. I know it's one of the top 7 markets in the country, but I don't see a team going back there anytime soon.
Mhm. Is there a city you'd like to see get a new hockey team, either like a new city or an old market to be revisited, and kind of change up the approach than when they had a team?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of places. I mean, people talk about Houston being a good place to go to this, or Kansas City, a good place to go.
Mhm.
Everybody talks about, and especially the people in Quebec City, they want a team back. That's Hockey Central up there. It'd be nice to see a team go back there. Hartford wanted a new team. I think we've hit a lot of the areas that I think could support a National Hockey League team. Utah being that one that really jumps out, right, from a lot of people, which I think is going to be a great move because the owner is a sports fan and he's going to make sure that team is treated right. So and run the right way, run properly. But I don't think there's too many places left in the States that can really handle the needs for a professional sports hockey team.
Makes sense.
And then I've only got I think 1 or 2 more at tops. For your whole career, you talked a little bit, not on this show, but before, about your time with the Kings, and it kind of wasn't the ending that you were looking for, and you got signed by the Sharks and everything by Doug Wilson. I just wanted to know if you could expound on some of that to our listeners, exactly the kind of man.
I won't give too much away because that's a big part of my Hall of Fame speech, and it's a pretty important and emotional part of my career. After the lockout in 2004, 2005, I was not a happy person. I was also an injured person. I just gone through 2 major concussions, and this is where my career started going this way because of attitude and physical ability. And I couldn't put as much effort into it because I was injured. But I just went into LA in a really bad mental frame. I went to Italy 10 days before training camp, right? Not a good place to go before training camp. You should be at home training in the gym, on the ice, getting ready, not in Rome, eating pasta and bread and drinking wine and, coming back 12 pounds overweight. Not a good look. But I did do that. And, then I got to a point where I needed to be saved. And Doug Wilson and the Sharks were that team. And I'll explain a little bit more at Hall of Fame time, but it was, probably saved my life.
Be very much looking forward to that induction speech. I guess I've just got 2 kind of quickies. Number 1, you spent a lot of time in Scottsdale, so I would assume you're a scratch golfer, or?
It says that on my gin card, and I don't like it. Yeah, my golf game is pretty good. My golf game, I've never been able to win too many tournaments because it's just, I seem to have one brain fart after another when coming down the stretch. But I shot 67 a couple times in the last month. I'm a grinder. I'm not the prettiest golfer in the world, but I'm a grinder. So I kind of play golf like I played hockey. So,
wow. Yeah, it's I go out somewhat now that I'm retired, and yeah, I'm nothing close to that. But I had to figure you were pretty dialed in.
My competitive juices go on the golf course. My son's the one that has the pro swing, so but he's he's getting closer to me.
Excellent. Do you have anything else, Hockey Princess? Or
No.
basically, I know you're going to be in town this weekend.
Yes.
Could you please? You've got like at least three different events. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that, and especially with the whiskey stuff, how that came
Yeah,
about?
actually, the business wise is going great for me. I do have a Whiskey in the Wild, which is my chocolate and chocolate orange whiskey, and we just launched in Illinois. So I'm coming over to Pazzo's Pizza, which is right there in Oak Brook, Burr Ridge area, on Sunday. Going to be in Lake Forest at the Wagyu and Whiskey event. I'm going to be out at Sandbar again Sunday afternoon, which is out at Lake Antioch. So I'm going to be making the rounds. The best whiskey of all time, best chocolate and chocolate orange you'll ever have. I'll turn a non-whiskey drinker into a whiskey drinker like that. I guarantee you. So we got that going on. So we can go on to whiskeyinthewild.com. You'll see all the places that I'll be doing bottle signings and having events and where you can purchase it. And I'm also launching a crypto coin / blockchain at the end of the month. So I'm pretty excited about that. So anybody that's involved with the crypto world that loves crypto and the Coinbase aspect of finance, which is now getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The bull rush is going to be something crazy over the next 5 or 6 years. I think, crypto is really going to take over a lot of the way that we pay for things. So we're launching a healthcare coin. We are changing the way that healthcare data is stored. We're going to use a blockchain technology that's going to be HIPAA compliant to protect everybody's medical records and to put the medical records back where they belong, and that's in the hands of the patient. And it's going to be a great thing. So September 27th, look for on Coinbase your opportunity to buy MetaChain X crypto coin. MetaChain X. It's going to be pretty fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, you've been very busy. That's excellent.
Yeah, it's been nice to sleep in my bed a little bit more than I do, but that's okay.
Will you be getting any golf when you come out here for the weekend? Doesn't sound like it, huh?
Not on the weekend, but I'll probably play a couple times during the week. I'll get some clients out, some customers, and go out and play a couple rounds for sure. The weather in Chicago has been awesome, so I got to take advantage of it before it gets too cold.
Yep, it's coming at some point in time.
Yep, I know it. It's okay. I love it no matter what. But I appreciate you guys very much. It's been a lot of fun being on with you.
This has been an unbelievable experience for me. You talk about giving back, and I've been a fan a long, long time. I've got a picture of you from the 92 finals scoring a goal that is hung in every establishment I've ever lived in. And
I love it.
I thank you so much for this.
Yeah, you got it. Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm glad we get to hook up. And you have my email now, so feel free to reach out. And if you want to do this again sometime, it'd be great. But I hope to see you this weekend.
Fantastic.
All right, guys.
Thanks
awesome.
again for coming on.
Hockey Princess, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
All right. Later,
Bye.
Jeremy.
Bye-bye.